Do you need help keeping time in your day-to-day life? I am terrible at it.
You really do. You were late to our first date.
Yeah, that's true, I was. Libby's excellent at it, but if you need some tips like me, whether you're a pro like Libby or you're an amateur like Julian, these tips will help you keep time for your everyday life. These are our top 10 time management tips for daily life. Say that fast 3 times.
Go on then.
Top 10 tips for time management daily life. Top 10 time. Peter Piper picked a pepper with a top 10 time management tips for daily life. Top 10 time management tips for daily life.
This is going to be intense.
It's going to be intense. Let's get into it.
So tip number 1, use your diary and set reminders. I know for me that if I don't put things in my diary, it's just not going to happen. You say you're going to be somewhere or you've got a meeting, put it in your diary. And if there's things that you need to get done, set reminders in your phone.
That's it. iCal, Google Cal, whatever Cal. Put a reminder on, put an alarm on, even put a 10-minute alert before the thing's supposed to happen. Whenever you've got an appointment, whenever you've got something you've agreed to, whenever you've got something you need to do that you really want to get done, put a reminder in your diary.
Bonus tip, make sure that you leave enough time to get to your appointment. So if your appointment is at 10 but it takes half an hour to get there, make sure you've set your alarm for 9:30 so you leave at the right time to get there with plenty of time.
Tip number 2, break your day into 3 items in terms of what you want to achieve that day. So often you can think, have I achieved anything today? And that's because you've gone from one task to another task. But the night before, write down 3 things that you want to get done. Like if this day has been successful if I do 1, 2, and 3. And once you've done those things, everything else is a bonus, everything else is extra. So set yourself just 3 targets to see the day achieved.
Tip number 3, plan the day before. So when you finish your work day, spend maybe 5 minutes planning what it is that you want to get done the following day. You'll find that you're coming in the morning refreshed after a good night's sleep and ready to get going. And you won't be wasting time or you're alert, planning things that you need to do. It'll already be there for you when you come in.
Tip number 4 is to use a priority matrix. There's something called the Eisenhower matrix, which was invented by President Eisenhower. And it basically works like this. So you have 4 boxes. In those 4 boxes, you've got important, unimportant, urgent, and non-urgent. And it basically is a way of categorizing how much does this thing that I need to get done matter. And you might start off by putting it in the important but not urgent box. And as time goes on, it might move to the important and urgent. Basically, it means it needs to get done today, right now. If it's important but not urgent, it matters, but it's something you can work on when you're not pressed for time. And there's some things that come in that just don't matter. They're unimportant, they're unurgent, they might need to get done, but it really doesn't matter all that much if they happen. Put them into the matrix, you decide where they fit, and you can shuffle them around as needed. I use Google Lists, you can use software like Trello or whatever kind of list management operational software you want to use, or you could just write a list down in your book and list those categories, those 4 categories on 4 different pages.
So off the back of that, tip number 5 is use lists. So lists can be really helpful to help you see where you're making progress. So you might want to do it in the Eisenhower model, or it might be that you just want to set up a to-do list and set kind of a priority list of things to do. Lists can be really helpful because they help you get what's in your head onto paper, and then as you tick them off, you can see the progress you're making throughout the day.
And if it's on paper, it's no longer in your head, it frees up a little bit of thinking space.
Exactly.
Tip number 6, whether you're working from home or you're working from work, you can break your day into 3 sections: work 2 and rest 1. So it might be that you work a morning and an afternoon and you rest in the evening, or if you're working particularly late, work an afternoon and an evening, but make sure you rest in the morning. And if you're working in a really fragmented pattern, you could work in the morning, chill out in the afternoon, and then you might have some evening work to do. But try and make sure your 3 sections of the day isn't all dedicated to work. There is time to relax, time to unwind.
So tip number 7 is to plan in your rest. So that might be as part of your day, as Julian's just told us, but it also means planning rest where you're taking prolonged rest off as well. So make sure if you have annual leave that you plan that in. If you're self-employed, plan for some time where you're not working, plan for some time with your family or on holiday. Because if you plan for that in advance, you can make the necessary arrangements to make that possible. And rest is really important. We should be working out of a place of rest, not resting because we work so hard that we've collapsed. Rest should be at the forefront of everything we do.
That's right, find what works for you, make sure you decompress, whether that's going through a long walk, going off to do a bit of sport or an activity, or it might be just reading a book, chilling out, listening to some music, but make sure you decompress and get some rest. The next thing, and this really is a great tip if you're controlling your diary and controlling your time, whether you're working from home or you're able to be a bit more flexible, but try to take 20-minute breaks in between work. So whether you're writing a dissertation or an essay if you're a student, or if you're somebody that naturally works from an office desk, you've got probably more flexibility on this one, but try to work 20 minutes, take a little break, go for a walk, change your environment, change your pattern, and then come back to the work with a fresh perspective. Do this every 20 minutes or so and you'll find that your brain stays sharp, your thinking stays original, and you're able to bring your best to your work. At the same time, you might not be able to do that. Perhaps you work in a physical job. You might not have that luxury, but if you do, try the 20-minute block technique.
Tip number 9, I'm going to run out of fingers soon, but tip number 9 is be brave, learn to say no. So often we can feel the pressure to say yes to everything, particularly if you're in a job where you're being managed by someone and they have expectations of you. Now, their expectations are valid, but if you are unable to do something, you need to tell them that. You need to be able to say no to things that aren't essential and no to things that you just haven't got capacity to do. Because otherwise you're putting yourself under more pressure, and we'll find that the other tips that we've said won't matter to you because you're feeling overworked, overstretched and stressed. So make sure that you learn to say no to things.
And that leads us on to tip number 10, our final tip, which is make sure you've got margins. Again, really better if you're controlling your diary, but if you've got a meeting, the temptation is to stack meetings back to back. Now, even if you're working from home, you can do Zoom meetings back to back. That's not healthy. Try to take at least 10, 20, if possible, 30 minutes in between meetings, in between seeing people, so you can debrief yourself, you can get notes ready for the next meeting, get your head right in terms of what you want to say, what you want to tackle for the day. And having that margin means you've got some colouring space. You remember when you worked in school and you were learning to write and learning to spell, you had a margin in that book, and that margin was for those extra little notes, that extra room, and you need that breathing space. So don't stack your day back to back, that'll create more stress. Make sure you've got margin in your work life and in your home life as well.
So that's our top 10 tips. If you have any more tips that you would share with us, please comment them below. We'd love to know how you manage your time. If this has been helpful to you, like, subscribe, and we'll see you soon.
Ciao. Okay, these are our top 10 times.